Since 2007, we've been deliberately doing artist-related housing here in Cleveland, and we had a couple anecdotal examples of people moving to the neighborhood because of our efforts and what we were doing.
Our focus more so is for owner-occupants and for artists. And the houses now, we were at one point selling for $5,000. We have increased the sales price to $6,500. And with that being said, you think that you move from 5,000 to 6,000, you're not going to get people, but we still, I don't know, it's just been awesome how we've been getting an increased amount of people coming from out of town. Just this weekend with the Waterloo Arts Festival, I showed one of our potential artists that's thinking about relocating from Indiana here, and he brought his parents. I was shocked, but it was good to have him really engaged in an event like that because he can really see how wonderful the neighborhood is, and the house that he was interested in is adjacent to Waterloo, so it's within walking distance.
Through the investments that we've been making over the last couple of years in the initiatives, we've been able to activate a lot of different spaces throughout the neighborhood, tackle issues like public safety, youth engagement, vacancy, harnessing the creativity that individual artists are bringing to those issues. We have an artist in the neighborhood, Ivana Medjukic, who runs a group called Project Pop-Up Galleries. She's been investing in a lot of different activities that are focused on activating space.
What we did was utilize the vacant studios above Arts Collinwood, which is now Waterloo Arts, and gave artists a space and a stipend and 4 months to complete a project, which would be showcased at the Waterloo Arts Fest.
We were committed to doing 3 exhibits through our gallery. 2 of them were on-site in the gallery and 1 is off-site. And they were having to do with this theme of vacancy and the reuse of space. And we didn't know exactly what that was going to be at the beginning of the year, but it was kind of fun. Our gallery committee had never had a theme to work with before, really, and so that just created interesting discussions of who could sort of represent that reuse of space and how that might inspire the public to think about it. And so, we did our first 2 gallery exhibits for that, and one of those exhibits, actually, many people commented and said that it was the best exhibit that we had done, in the 10 years that we'd been open.
So another thing that you'll get to see at the fest is the Zoetic Walls project. This is a large-scale street mural project that's been launched by Arts Collinwood to really bring some of the top international street art talent out there to the streets of Collinwood.
We realized that we could actually use the murals to draw people's attention to some of the vacant spaces, to try to help beautify some of the vacant spaces, to maybe get people attached to some of those places instead of just the city tearing them down. Maybe we'd have a dialogue and talk about that. What I most underestimated about the project was how engaging it was going to be for the community and how important it would be to have that discussion started and to have a dialogue with people that were completely different than the people we are already serving through our agency. These are people that are out on the street that feel a certain barrier to come in here. Even though our gallery exhibits are free, it's just you have to cross a wall, and that isn't always comfortable for people. And so to bring this art out onto the street, not only does it allow for a discussion right about that piece of work, but it also allows you to use it as a vehicle to talk about many other things that are happening in the neighborhood. So for instance, a little story that we put up that first mural, and I was down at a post office a few blocks from here, and she saw that I was mailing something from Arts Collinwood, and she said, "Oh, are you guys involved with that mural that went up? And what's what's going on with the mural and the eyes and the colors? And we were able to talk a little bit about the mural, but then I was also able to tell her about all the other great things happening in the neighborhood that she is a resident and she didn't know anything about. You know, and I could tell her about the streetscape that was coming. And so that, I think, is a really exciting thing, that we're able to connect with people in the community that are residents, but that, you know, for whatever reason we haven't connected with before, because it's so important that as this neighborhood, you know, develops, that that everybody in the neighborhood feels like they belong here.
It's really because of the Artists in Residence program and then the Collinwood Rising program that was funded by ArtPlace. They were able to really get some growth hormone, really get some augmentation into the efforts that we've been having. And now we've been just pretty much overwhelmed by the demand for space, whether it be people trying to get storefronts or people trying to get in houses. It's been absolutely incredible, the number of phone calls we're getting and people coming in and helping people with their business plans, getting people credit ready to buy a house has been pretty much overwhelming, to be honest.
You know, you sort of struggle along for so long and that hill is so steep, and there's lots of people jumping around who are aware of all the assets in the neighborhood and feel that energy and volunteerism in the neighborhood. But then, you know, when you finally get some attention from multiple people looking in, and then you get that investment sort of all at once, then the ball starts rolling really fast and it's fun. And the faster it rolls, the more energy it creates. And, you know, one artist tells another artist about all the cool things that are happening. And, you know, since this grant, during this grant period, my sister moved down to the neighborhood and bought a house. You know, many other people in the neighborhood's friends moved into the neighborhood because they're talking about all the great things that are happening here. It's really, you know, it's one thing to say, oh, a gallery's opening up. It's another thing to say, oh, you know, the Cleveland Institute of Art is coming into the neighborhood, and, you know, there's a ceramic studio opening in the neighborhood, and there are these live work spaces, and then we're going to have this streetscape, and, you know, and as you go on that list, people just start to feel like, oh, there's lots of hope, and, you know, that neighborhood has so many assets.
I think that there's just like a lot of really good energy here now. I think that this year has really brought the neighborhood under the spotlight. There's a lot of attention here now. So I think that the energy is just flowing not only through maybe a few people or groups of people, it's kind of been spread out where now a lot of individuals are really wanting to make things happen here.
So our issue right now is really absorbing demand, which for a Rust Belt community, for a long, slow or no growth city like Cleveland, the concept that now it's a supply issue, not a demand issue, is a complete transformation from where we were before this process began.
You know, I think that the ArtPlace money that's come in has started many, many little things that are blossoming in their own way and causing other great little things to happen and really changing the area. And we're lucky that, you know, like with the Waterloo Arts Fest, you asked, is this something that was a one-time deal? It was so great this year because of all the investment. Is it not going to be that good next year? And fortunately for that event, we have, you know, a great organization here, Cuyahoga Arts Culture, and we have a grant from them to, you know, for the bulk of that festival. And because of that, I know that it will grow and be great, and that, you know, that grant is a really nice grant because you can write it for the same program each year.
Clearly the crowd this year was about 30 or 40% bigger than it had been previously. And in previous years there would be these windows of like people come and then it was kind of slow and then people go. It was consistently strong the entire event, and we even went over for the first time. It's usually, frankly, when we got towards the end, enough people would kind of disperse that you're like, what's really going on here? We actually had to shut it down this year for the first time yet, where some people that were going to start earning overtime were coming up and going, are we going to keep having this party, or what are you guys doing? see a fantastic explosion of everything that's authentic and right and real about what we want the street to feel like. Clearly one of the proudest days of my career was Saturday. It was fantastic all day long.
I think what you see when you look at these projects is something that clearly has a meaning. You can't look at the before and after and not be moved by the promise of the work that's happening in Collinwood around vacancy. And so there's a lot of bricks and mortar investments that are kicking that work off. In addition to the bricks and mortar investments, we really see the value in getting a lot of funding directly to artists. We don't believe that we have all of the answers for how you activate vacant space in meaningful ways. So we turn to the artists who live in this neighborhood and work in this neighborhood and care about this neighborhood to really put forward their own ideas for how that work can happen. To date, we've been able to launch about 50 projects throughout the neighborhood. And we're not talking about a huge area. We're talking about a very condensed area where a lot of project work is happening all at the same time. And I think that all of those different visions for the neighborhood, all of the very hard work of those stakeholders is really paying off. You can just sense that there's a change in the air.